That's the sound of life becoming a lot trickier for Boris Johnson if he becomes the next Prime Minister. Throughout the leadership race, he's refused to rule out suspending Parliament to force through a no-deal Brexit. MPs today might just have blocked it, thanks to an amendment by this former Tory minister.
If we felt under the weight of any pressure up to now, I would venture to suggest to the House it will be as of nothing in the days leading up to October the 31st. If it is not.
But for Boris Johnson backers, all this vote has done is make it harder for the next Prime Minister to negotiate a new deal.
If you enter a negotiation, any businessman will tell you, and I'm sure you know, that you don't rule anything out. It doesn't mean you agree with everything that's on the table, but you don't rule anything out. It's because we made it clear that we wouldn't walk away from the table last time we got such a bad deal.
Well, I think it's starting to feel like we are at the last chance. The leadership will be known on Tuesday next week, and both candidates have set out quite a hard Brexit stall, but I have faith in Jeremy Hunt that he is responsible and that he will do what it takes to get some revisions to a deal. So I felt really that Parliament needed to make its voice heard, and I'm delighted that so many of my colleagues joined me in not opposing the amendments, so that we had a good majority, to show the next Prime Minister, whoever it is, that Parliament needs to be involved right through to the end of this terrible situation in which we find ourselves.
And not only was this supposedly a means to show the future PM that Parliament deserves to be involved right to the very end, more importantly, it's indicated to the European Union that not only will they be removing one of the so-called bargaining chips, or at the very least an alternative if all else fails, they've also indicated that they intend to do more in order to prevent no deal in its entirety, thus indicating to the European Union that all they really need to do is continue to reject any proposals or compromises or amendments, etc., insisting that the only withdrawal agreement that they are prepared to allow is the one that Theresa May conjured up. Thus, the PM to be will have to come back to Parliament with his tail between his legs after a failure to obtain a new deal of sorts, and instead of being able to overrule Parliament when the inevitable kicks in, he will have to try and negotiate with Parliament to try and allow a no deal to occur. And I think we all know the inevitable outcome if that comes into effect. Now, it's not set in stone that a no deal Brexit is completely off the table, but these people are working towards, or are being led to believe they're working towards, making sure that it is. Now we have to suffer and endure the BS from these crybaby Ramoners as they now proclaim that they are intent on achieving a better deal with the European Union. That's what the focus will be on now. We have to get rid of no deal and focus solely on getting a better deal from the European Union. Right? And I mean, they actually expect people to buy into this narrative. They expect people to believe that they're being sincere when they come away with that shit. And as I reiterated a minute or two prior, it's completely nonsensical to believe for a second that they're all hell-bent now on obtaining a better deal from the EU in order to have our soft Brexit and or hard Brexit, whatever it may be. It's ridiculous, considering if there is a failure to achieve a better deal, then the only other alternative is no deal. But yet they're actively working to eradicate that from the conversation, and they've already blocked the PM-to-be from being able to act upon himself, overrule Parliament, and push through a no deal. So the crybaby Remainers and the politicians in general have set the wheels in motion for this chapter of the Dog and Pony Show, when they know themselves, as does anybody that's observing from the sidelines, that this is probably, I won't say with 100% certainty, but it's probably paving the way for the inevitable. The PM-to-be will run out of options when he can't obtain a better deal. And no deal, if no deal I should say, if no deal is removed at that time, then quite frankly, what is there left to do? What is there left to do at that point? You know? So, these people know exactly what they're doing. But as I said, we now have to suffer the shit that they come away with as they make out that they're all determined to get a better deal. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Do you think, therefore, that a no-deal Brexit is now out of the question?
No, I don't think we can say that. We're still in the sort of anything could happen territory, I'm afraid, because you can't forget the legal default. We have an extension until the 31st of October, but if we can't agree a deal by then, and we either don't seek a further extension or aren't granted one, then of course we could end up leaving with...
If the European Union are committed to the claim that they are not going to renegotiate, then it would make no sense to extend for any longer than we've already had to do. Of course though, in doing so, delays the inevitable and gives these people more time to find ways to completely remove no deal from the conversation.
Without a deal at the end of October.
This nexus of 16 Conservative MPs who really represent one of the biggest rebellions the Conservative Party has seen in the House of Commons. Is that the beginning of some kind of a movement in the Commons?
Yes, I think it is, because of course I don't think that figure includes all the other Conservative colleagues who abstained on this vote. And they, I think, will be part of a continuing movement in order to make sure that this country leaves with a decent deal, with a decent future.
And what incentive is there for the European Union to even consider giving the UK a better deal when they know themselves, if they're not able to get a better deal, they have to fall back on no deal? And as has become very apparent today, no deal is in jeopardy of being removed from the equation. It's all about waiting at this point. The longer we sit and dither, quote unquote, the more time for these people to well and truly fuck up Brexit.
Relationship with our biggest trading partner, that's our main motivation, and there'll be more than 14 of us intent on pursuing that course.
So you're not in any way considering leaving the party itself?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm looking to see what can be done within the Conservative Party, and also representing my constituents. My constituents, as you might know, voted to leave by a substantial majority, and I shall be respectful of that.
Have you been able to foresee any way in which Article 50 would be pulled?
I can't really think that, no. I think to revoke would be present a new danger, really, in terms of democracy. The action of...
What a relief to hear. But again, as I said, the wheels are in motion now. It's paving the way towards an outcome that's not going to be that different to that of revoking Article 50. Because if they get their way and they completely take no deal out of the equation, there is nothing that would encourage the European Union to give us a better deal, thus leaving us with the only option remaining, Theresa May's crappy deal, and naturally nobody's going to be in favour of that, thus leaving no deal being the only alternative. But if they have their way, that won't be an alternative, thus meaning Brexit's rather fucked at that point. It'll become stagnant, useless, meaningless, obsolete. So it's all very well and good to stand there and say that revoking Article 50 would be detrimental and so on. But at the end of the day, this is just a means to do something rather similar for the back door. But as I said, they have to make out now that they're hell-bent on obtaining a better deal. Pull the other one. Pull the fucking other one.